Hello, I am Mudita, and welcome back to Satisfactory, now officially in 1.1. In the last video, I made a factory to automate the last space elevator part I needed, and started to replace the temporary setups I started the save with. I am now in Phase 3, and I'm going to focus on unlocking all the milestones first, which means I'm going to need another temporary setup. This time, it'll be for plastic and rubber. I want to start replacing the rest of the starter area, and for that, I'll need to do some more exploring for more hard drives. Back at the hub. I can't wait to start deleting this. But before we do that, let's check out the hub here. I don't know why that's blinking, but let's go ahead and do the jetpack first because, how can you not get the jetpack first?
Milestone reached. Fixit has granted you the power of flight, provided you have a jetpack and the appropriate fuels. The jetpack refuels automatically while you are standing on a surface, and different fuel types will affect the jetpack's functionality. With this increased versatility, you will no doubt achieve efficiency levels previously unheard of.
Oh, this is great. Oh, I've missed having the jetpack. I also forgot just how bad solid biofuel is. Oh, that is not good. But it's still just great being able to go up. The parachute is definitely what you want in the early game. But oh, it feels good to replace it. I've got 4 minutes until I can turn in the next one, which I'm going to do oil processing. Because for pretty much everything else, I'm going to need plastic or rubber. So let's go ahead and select that one. And I've still got 3.5 minutes, so I'm just going to dump all my inventory here. And now I can start deleting things. So for things like iron plates, I have those automated now. So I can just go through and just start deleting this entire setup. Well, it's a decent start. I was able to get rid of pretty much all of the basic iron stuff. I can actually get rid of the wire and the cable as well. But I haven't quite replaced the modular frames yet, so I'm going to leave those there, even though I'm pretty sure I have enough built up that I realistically could delete it now. But I really just don't want to have to manually craft any, so I'm going to leave it there until I have it replaced. Now that the pod is returned, go ahead and turn in this next one. The cleanup process is going to have to be put on hold for a little bit. Time to start playing with some oil. And for that, we just need to turn right over here. And you can just see, if we zoom in, that's some crude oil right there. And there's actually some more somewhere right here. There's 2 impure nodes right there. And for this initial setup, you really don't need a lot. Using the power tower blueprint, I'm going to bring power basically this way and then up over there. And then I'm going to lay down some foundations, and then we can get to building some machines. And we're back. So I've got power brought over there and then up to here. So thankfully they stretch pretty far, so it only took adding 2 more. And somewhere under these foundations, there's an oil node. There we go. If you just wave your mouse around long enough, eventually it'll pop up. And I think we'll just spin this way for right now. I may change this stuff around later. And I love this initial setup. It is just so nice and easy. So I used to overcomplicate this by, well, a lot. But I realized you can make it really simple also. One of them is going to be plastic, and I'm just going to fully overclock this. So it's going to make 50 a minute, and it's going to use 75 crude oil. It's like I'm going to need to run around and find 1 or 2. Oh, look, there's a yellow one over here. So I think I'm going to have to pick up 1 or 2 of these. Thankfully, there are a ton in this area. So I'm also going to fully overclock this one as well. So it's going to do the same thing. It's going to take 75 crude oil, and it'll produce 50 rubber. But both machines are going to output heavy oil residue in different amounts, but for this, it doesn't matter. To deal with that, I'm going to go ahead and grab a pipe, and I don't think it needs to come out that far. About there looks good. I'm going to go ahead and add a junction here. And let's just go ahead and make these pipes purple. the output from the rubber and go ahead and use good old straight mode. So the heavy oil residue coming out of both of these two refineries are going to directly plug into this last one. And this one here is going to make petroleum coke. Once I get all my power shards, I'll know exactly how much this needs to make. There's actually quite a few things you can do with petroleum coke. At this current stage of the game, there's really only two options. Either I can burn it in coal power generators, so I could get some more power. But to be honest, this whole setup is temporary, and I don't want to start relying on that power. Or I could just sink it, and that's just more coupons for me. So I'm just going to add a sink over here. And once I set the recipe, I'll know which belt to use. I'm just going to take a quick trip back to the hub so I can sloop these slugs and turn them into power shards. And I'll be right back. Alright, so we've got the setup finished. This one just didn't quite line up right, so I decided to change the orientation. Going the 90 degrees was a little bit easier. And then I just had to move the sink out of the way. But now everything's plugged up. And then the final products are just going to go up on lifts and then into storage containers. Alright, let's make sure everything is overclocked. Since this is an impure node, I need to fully overclock it to get the 150. Completely overclocking the rubber will use up half of the crude oil and 50 heavy oil residue. Got to remember that in a second. Completely overclocked plastic will do 25, so that's 75 heavy oil residue I need to get rid of. And the normal clock speed is 40. So if you've already done the math, you can just put in the right number for petroleum coke or whatever. But if I only know that number, easiest way is going to be 75 divided by the default rate of 40, and then we'll multiply that by 100 for the percentage. 187.5, and there's my 75, so it's going to make 225 petroleum coke. And for that, I just need to mark 3 going into my sink. Let's get it started. And there we go. Just like that. Looks like everything's up to 100%. Both plastic and rubber stacked to 200. So at 50 a minute, I've just got to wait here for 4 minutes and then I'll have 1 stack of each. And then I can go back to the hub and get some more things unlocked. But I'm not just going to wait here. I'm sure there's some more slugs or some more goodies in the immediate area that I can go find. I thought I would find more, but hey, I'll take 2 yellow slugs. And we've got enough, actually. Let's just take all of it. Might as well. I really need better fuel for this jetpack. It was relatively quick setting up the power and the foundations, but it took me long enough that I ran back over here and unlocked the Logistics Mark IV. I had already picked up this much rubber from crash sites, so thankfully I was able to unlock that before I even automated the rubber. But now I can unlock fluid packaging. This is huge.
Milestone reached. Avoid the embarrassment of placing liquids in your pockets only for them to spread across your suit. Package and unpackage them with the packager.
Definitely don't want getting those liquids in your pockets. Alright, so I'm going to stock up on a few more things, and then we're going to set up another temporary factory. Alright, so if you hit O to open up the codex, you can see all the different parts that you have unlocked, and I believe they're all in order of when you unlock them. So we can see all of our oil stuff here is at the very end. So now I can make and package fuel, and I will do that, but for this stage of the game, this actually isn't my preferred fuel for my jetpack. Actually, the packaged liquid biofuel. I'm going to come down here right next to my temporary coal setup. I'm just going to add a little bit more because I've already got the water. And that's just handy. Now I have some foundations and no pesky hatches over there. Let's get to building. Alright, so to start this, we're going to go with a storage container. This one will have the output facing this way. That is going to lead into my refinery. That's enough space. And the refinery here is going to do liquid biofuel. I've already crafted up a whole bunch of the solid biofuel, and it's just sitting there unless I somehow use more than my 3000 megawatts. Then those will kick in, but right now they're just sitting around. And I'll leave a little bit in there just as an emergency, but I think I'm going to turn most of it into liquid biofuel. I do kind of want to get the most bang for my buck here, so I'm going to add 2 summer sloop. Since this is temporary, I'm just going to get them back after I'm done. Once I get the other machines placed, I'll worry about the clock speed. Alright, and that we can just shove up next to the refinery. So there is our packager. And that will lead right into another storage container. So this is going to be where the final product goes. Packaged liquid biofuel. So then I'll take the liquid biofuel, and now I just need empty canisters. So I make sure I have enough room. Let's go ahead and put the constructor all the way up here. The only recipe right now is the empty canister. I like some of the other ones better, but for right now, this is going to do just fine. So the empty canisters will go from the constructor into the packager. Then I just need another storage container to feed this one with plastic. Alright, so for the pipe, I need to go from here to there. So you could do that. You could do curve. it's a little wild in this situation. Straight. Well, it's going to clip through the pipe. Auto. No. So this is how I like to do it. Going to go to horizontal to vertical. See, right here should be a right angle. So click it once, and then you can change the height. So we're going to go up twice, and then I'm going to lock it with H, and then just nudge it back. And that right there is probably the most compact you're going to get it to go up 2 meters and a 90-degree turn. And then from here, I can change it to straight mode. And since this is liquid biofuel, might as well change that to green. Let me go grab my solid biofuel and a bunch of plastic, and then I'll go over the rates before we turn it on. I have all the materials, and I did leave out one key piece, and that was the water extractor. Thankfully, that's pretty simple. And it's already starting to back up. Didn't really take too long, but it's only putting out 37.5, and let's go through the numbers. With the summer sloop, I've underclocked it. So normally it would put out 50, but I'm actually going to get 100 per minute out of this. And the reason is, that is the most that this can package. And I don't really feel like using 2 packagers. Honestly, I could do this much slower and it would even save me power, but I have the power, so might as well just use it, right? And then for the canisters, because I have the summer sloop and I don't have tons of plastic built up, I only need 25 plastic and that'll make 100 empty canisters. So let's go ahead and just load everything up. Oh, that's the end one. This one needs solid. There we go. And just like that, we're turning all that solid biofuel into that glorious liquid biofuel. Oh, this stuff is just so good. If you haven't used it, I cannot recommend it enough. Just to give you a comparison, let me just grab some of this. Alright, so the preferred is this solid. So it doesn't last too long before you run out. So I can get decently high, but you don't normally go straight up. It's usually about how far you can kind of go and glide. So really not great with the solid biofuel. Now if we switch this to the liquid, look at just how slow that bar goes down. And the trick is to just keep tapping the space bar instead of holding it down. And that's why the hands flicker a lot. And I'm sorry if that's super annoying, but you do get to travel by far the farthest by doing this. So I used up about half. And I got well over twice as far. It is amazing. Honestly, I prefer this over the regular fuel. The turbo fuel is nice, but even that, it still burns kind of quickly. The rocket fuel and the ionized fuel I definitely prefer over the liquid bio, but that is way down the line. Back in the hub, making good progress. About to finish tier 5. Let's go. This will unlock the fuel power generators. For most pioneers, this is actually all you end up needing. You really don't need to go nuclear. Although I'll need much better fuel to do it, at least I have the machine. While the milestone was working away, I ran around and grabbed a whole bunch of stuff so I can do some MAM upgrades. Let's go through the list and see what we can knock out here. One more hand equipment slot. Don't mind if I do. Medical properties. You know what? I've got all the pieces. Let's go ahead and get the gas obelisk. I never use this, but might as well unlock it.
Not for recreational use.
Almost done with the mycelia tree. Just always seem to be short on the bacon. That's not till way later. I really want this because I'm going to have to do some hard drive hunting soon. I just really don't want to craft those up yet. Ah, smokeless powder. Now this is the other one I really wanted to unlock before I go exploring.
New sulfur research available for the development of high-end weaponry and ammunition.
Well, doesn't that sound fun? Alright, so I am just going to set up just a really kind of gross temporary setup add-on here. Oh, this power pole's just not in a great spot. I'm going to have to move that here in a second. Alright, so I'm going to delete that pipe and we're going to replace it. I'm going to leave the petroleum coke locked to what it's supposed to be because this new one is only going to run for a little bit. For smokeless powder, I just need a little bit of the heavy oil residue. We can just load this all the way up. Even if we completely overclock this one machine, it's still not even using half of the heavy oil residue, since this is taking in 75. And so this one will run slightly inefficient for a few minutes, but I just need to turn some of this black powder into smokeless powder. So we can just set belt going into there, and then we'll just have one more storage container on this side for the smokeless powder to head into. Just go ahead and load this one up. I just need to build up 50 and I can unlock the rifle. There we go.
Rifle and rifle ammo unlocked. A long-range weapon and rapid-fire ammunition, only to be used for the defense or acquisition of fixed property. Conveniently, this includes everything of value on this planet.
How convenient. Alright, so now I've got my equipment workshop. Got enough to craft up a rifle. That's right, I have an extra hand slot. Oh, look at that beauty. Guess we need ammo, don't we? Alright, so I'm going to have to wait for a bit more to craft up, but thankfully it really doesn't take a whole lot to create a decent amount. Oh yeah, this is just so much better. Having liquid biofuel and the rifle, oh, feel like I can take on just about anything. Alright, I don't want to get too cocky. My aim is horrible for the regular rifle ammo. So in a few minutes, that'll take care of all of that black powder and turn it all into smokeless powder. And then I'll run that back over to the hub, grab some copper sheeting, and do another temporary setup to crank out a bunch of ammo. And then it's time to do some exploring. And like last time, I'm just going to go ahead and skip over it. When I go exploring, I usually put on a stream or some other YouTube videos or an audiobook, and I just kind of zone out, and all of a sudden it's been an hour or two and I'm halfway around the world. So I don't normally record any of it and don't voice any of it over. But we'll take a look at the haul and I'll show you a screenshot from the Satisfactory calculator so that you can kind of get a picture of what I picked up and where I went. But trust me, you're not missing out on any Major League Gaming moments. My shots are horrible. I just discovered a really silly trick. I'm sure this has always been in the game, but I don't know why it took me so long to figure out. So you can sneak up to hatchers and you can kill them, right? And I've done that in the early game. It's a fantastic way to get rid of them and not have to worry about the bees. I also learned that you can shoot them with the rebar gun while you're crouched. Normally, after you hit it once, it would open up, but if you're staying crouched, it won't. This also works with the rifle, but even better, what I didn't realize is while you're spamming the jetpack, you can actually hold down crouch. and it still has the same effect. So I'm going to fly over to this hatcher, and we're going to shoot him nice and slow. He would totally open up normally by now, right? And there you go. So you can actually crouch midair with the jetpack. So cool. Very handy for when you find an area that has multiple hatchers real close. So for a lot of places, it is super helpful. Around here, it gets a little tricky because there's ones that'll just be hiding underneath or on the side of these rocks. So you really have to keep your eye open. Yeah, hanging upside down like that guy. They'll sneak up on you, so you do have to look out for those. I'm going to go craft up more of that, and then go on an adventure, and then I'll show you what I got. That was a pretty good trip. Like I said, I just kind of space out when I go exploring. I didn't even realize it until I was looking at the timestamps. I was gone for a little over 2 hours. So let me show you the progress. Satisfactory Calculator is a fantastic website. It'll be linked down in the description. There's a whole bunch of different things between planners, there's different resources, blueprints. What it's probably best known for is the interactive map tab, which can also edit your saves. And there's a whole bunch of cool things you can do with that. But for me, I get the most use out of the map. This is a snapshot of my save right before I went on this exploration trip. The hard drives that are slightly grayed out are the ones that I've collected. At that point, I had collected 20 out of 118, and 22 Mercer spheres and 6 of the Sommersloops. This is what the map looks like now. I have collected 37 of the hard drives. I'm up to 46 Mercer spheres and 19 of the Sommersloops. There is still a ton out there for me to go get, but I'm pretty happy with this haul. Let's take a look at the remains. This is what I'm going to blame it taking so long on. I had to kill so many creatures. Oh, there's another stack up here. Between what I was carrying and what I had in the dimensional depot, I had about 2,000 of the rifle ammo before I left on that trip. And this is all I have left, which is the reason why I came back. If you take a look at the map, on my first exploration trip, I took the Explorer down the canyon and then up through the Dune Desert, and so most of those I had already grabbed. So on this trip, I wanted to go through the northern forest, and then I skipped over to high up on the cliffs above the desert, and then realized that on some of them I just didn't have the parts. I just don't have fused modular frames yet, so I couldn't unlock one of them. And then others were guarded by just so much, I just didn't feel like dealing with it at that point. I'll come back to those later. And I clearly missed a whole bunch in the Spire Coast on my way back. But at least those are close, and I can grab those pretty much anytime pretty easily. Well, now that I have just a massive haul, the slugs won't take too long. It's going to be all of the remains are going to take quite a while to chug through. While that's working away, I should be able to start unlocking just about everything else. Finally unlocking the manufacturer. Moving on up. And a bunch of parts that require the manufacturer. Let's do it.
You are making good progress. The future is starting to look bright.
That was actually a positive message. Thanks, Ada. I have everything automated here, so I'll probably just need to go grab it. For the railway signaling, needs 50 computers. Okay. And then with these, I have that. 50 heavy modular frames. And with this one, alright, so I need 150 of each of these. There's 150 computers, and there's 150 heavy modular frames. 22 purple slugs. Oh, that's nice. That ended up being another benefit to the long exploration trip, is I was able to pick up enough of these higher end materials that I haven't crafted yet, but I can now unlock all of the milestones. I'm going to keep working my way through all of the slugs and the remains, and then I'm going to go gather all the parts that I need for the rest of these milestones. I don't even know how long it's been at this point, but I'm finally working through the last bits of alien protein. Oh, wait, why is this backing up? Oh, I didn't use a big enough container, that's why. Well, we'll let that finish. In the meantime, I went ahead and set up my first temporary manufacturer, because of course it's going to be a temporary setup. Hopefully in not too long, I'll actually get these automated. But right now we're just going to risk it and we're going to sloop this. And hopefully I have enough power. Consuming production. I've got plenty of space still. 55 to 220. It's a pretty good jump. I mean, for science, right? Alright. 738.7. It is using more than 10 times what its normal rate at 100% is. That is wild. But thankfully I've got the power. Now that I have so many of the basic parts automated, I really want to put dimensional depots on top of a lot of the industrial storage containers that I have. And I've got a good amount of Mercer spheres. But I knew I was going to run out of the SAM fluctuators pretty quickly. And so that's what this is for. Give me enough so that I can actually put dimensional depots on a lot of my parts. I upgraded my sink setup. It was about time since I've had industrial storage containers for a while. It just makes sense to use 2 of them. You can just clear it out so much faster that way. Well, this is a fun new bug that I haven't seen before. I just deleted the storage container that was here. And if I go to this side... Huh. That's new. Oh, that glows through there. Interesting. I think most of the other lights don't, though. Oh, but the dimensional depot. The glow. I'm curious and I didn't want to count. And I love the dismantle tool. 1334. Currently at 33. Not bad. And then the points just abruptly stop. 74. That is not too shabby. Let's see what kind of damage we can do here in the awesome shop. You know I can't just hold on to these. They're going to burn a hole in my pocket. As much as I would love those. Not yet. Okay. We should be able to get just about all of the good things, I think. And even a whole bunch of things that I really don't need. Well, since I have so many, I might as well just queue up all of those right away. Because I really want the colors. 29. Perfect. Definitely getting the coated. I am going to wait on the patterns, probably till last, to be honest. I should use them more. Well, let's get all of the foundations. What are we at? 57. Plenty left. These actually are probably the last things I'll unlock, and I'm just going to unlock them just to do it, really. But I really like the new ones better. Get all of this. 69. Just enough to get the weird walkways that I rarely use, but every once in a while, I find a spot for them. 74, well spent. Oh, just look at how many things I have in the architecture tab now. It's beautiful. Why is everything yellow? Everything is stopped. Everything was running so well for so long. Oh, what happened? Well, I think I see the culprit. There's absolutely nothing sinking. We've got power. Ah. Screws. Oh, of course. Just tons and tons of screws. Okay. Oh. Huh. Well, that's unfortunate. Oh, I think I placed that afterwards. That wouldn't affect anything. So it should be as easy as lining it up directly underneath, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 should work. Those didn't move. Okay. This used to work. Lock it there. Well, they let us keep the stubby lift, but apparently they don't always work. Alright, I even tried replacing the merger. It's not the merger. So I think I'm just going to do it at this distance. Going to delete that. And then it still lets me put the belt in there. so not ideal. Other parts besides screws are moving again. Alright. Just one tiny little belt that was missing. And it took so many hours for that to pop up. And the only reason it happened this early is because I only have one storage container for screws. If I had 3 of them like I do for all of the other parts, that problem would have taken even longer to show up. Well, while I'm here, we might as well set these up. So I want at least one. Eventually, when I have way more Mercer spheres, I'll probably load up a bunch of these. Although for stuff like wire, honestly, I don't even need 3 storage containers. I could probably drop it to 2 or probably even 1. Just don't go through a ton of wire. Same thing with cable, to be honest. 3 storage units is probably overkill. But it is nicer to have it and not need it than the other way around. Almost forgot to add lifts. There we go. The benefit of it crashing the way that it did is it meant that I just had a ton of extra parts. Since all the belts were also full, there's tons of extra just kind of in the system. What I did is go to each machine and pull out both the input and the output. And that way everything can get flowing back to normal and I don't have to see the stuttering belts because I just like the way this looks better. For the extra regular parts, I just drop them in the storage below, and then for all of the extra ingots and ore, I just set up a storage container and some sinks and sunk them. Can't let it go to waste. I am still working my way through hard drives, so still going to be another 50 minutes until I'm done with all of those. And I'm pretty sure I have so many available now in this phase, now that I have refineries unlocked, that I think I'm going to need to go on another hard drive hunt. But there is something that I want to take care of before that, and that's build another factory. Can't go too long before I start building something. My little steel section over here, it's about time we replace it. I already have the iron pipes and steel beams automated and dimensional depots set up for those. So right now this has basically just been turning power into sink points, which is fine by me. I've had the extra power. But now it's time to clean up this mess. I'm going to be using this limestone node and that iron node up there. I'm going to clean this mess up and then we'll take a look at the good old spreadsheet. It looks so much more empty now. I still need to clean up that iron, but I am going to use it, so I'll be able to clean that up pretty easily in a little bit. I've still got the 3 containers of the steel beams, pipes, and encased industrial beams, and I'm pretty much just sinking everything else, all the extra steel ingots and whatnot. This is where the factory is going to go. I still need to place the foundations. But let's go ahead and take a quick look at the spreadsheet. This tower is going to take care of the modular frames and the encased industrial beams. I'm going to be using a mix of the default recipes and some alternates. Like for example, the encased industrial pipe is just better. The beams are quite a bit more expensive on steel. And with steel pipes, I don't even need to include coal if I don't want to. I could involve the coal, it's right here. But I can do this entire factory with only 336 iron. And since now that I have Mark IV belts, I'd rather just cut out the coal altogether. I'll just need the iron and the limestone. I got a little carried away, and instead of doing only the first floor, I went ahead and placed the second floor as well. Let me show you. Some stairs just to get up here easier, but they'll probably end up moving when I get to the decorating phase. I've got my 2 sets of 3 industrial storage containers, and then the sink will go somewhere over there. Again, that may end up moving. And then I've got my elevator, and that can bring me up the next floor. And just like with my other towers, I'm going to start off with smelters, just because it makes sense to just kind of work your way up the tower, in my opinion. The iron needs smelters, however, the limestone needs constructors. So I'm actually going to try to fit all of them on this floor. So if we take a look at where everything's kind of laid out, the limestone is right here. So I'm going to have the inputs for these facing this way. And I don't think I need too much load balancing because I only need 2 constructors. I can go ahead and just place a splitter back here. And let's set the recipes and see what this is going to be. And 2 power shards because I need 25 for each one because I need 50 total. And since it's a 3-to-1, I need 75. So these will be Mark II. For the other part of the floor, we're going to use the smelter. Now the smelter is going to get spun around the opposite direction because that is coming from the iron node right over there. And this is actually going to be very tight for space, and so I'm going to do something that I am probably going to regret, and I'm going to nudge this thing a half a meter. 2 foundations for all the load balancing should be just enough, because I need 8. But before I place all the rest of them, let me go ahead and set the recipe, because that just makes it easier. 336 across 8 machines, 42 for each one. Alright, only 1 power shard each. I just need 7 more. And that's why I nudged it that half meter. They just barely fit in here. Load balancing 8 machines is really easy, although with smelters, because they're so skinny, it's not quite as neat as the other ones because I can't place it right in the middle. So I've got to pick one or the other to put it in front of. And because I nudged the machines a half meter, I get to nudge all of these a half meter. So I'm picking the very outside ones because it'll make everything a little bit easier. This first splitter will do the one it's in front of, and this one. I'm just gonna have to make, yeah. And then this one will do these 2. Like that. And now I can place another one in the middle of these. And one in the very center. Alright, each one is getting 42, which means this is gonna need to be a Mark II. It's 84. Meaning this one is going to be Mark III. Just got to remember to do all these short little ones. And that's the easy part. Things on this side of the smelters are going to get a little bit more interesting. I don't exactly know where each thing is going. I need the iron ingots for a number of different things. Iron plates, iron rods, cast screws, and iron pipes. So I need to do quite a bit of load balancing, and I don't know where things are going, and so I think it'll be easier if I add the next floor, and hopefully that means I can group these machines up in a little bit of a neater way. I'm definitely not onto the decorating phase quite yet, and I'm not going to do too much until the end. But I did say I was going to try to switch up the style at least a little bit with the new phase. So with this phase, I'm thinking about trying out some more open air designs. So instead of using as many windows, kind of just leaving it open and just using some pillars and whatnot. Now I have just about all the different cosmetic options, so I've really got a lot to play with. For right now, I'm just doing kind of the bare bones. We'll get all the machines in, and then I'm going to go back in and do a lot more of the decorating. But I was able to shrink the floor, because this and the next floor don't need very many machines at all. In fact, this is a really clean floor, and it just needs 4 constructors. So we'll go ahead and center it right there, and we'll give it its own foundation. And then we'll just get the other 3. Let's set some recipes. So starting on the left, let's go ahead and go with our iron rods. I need 24. 2 power shards there. Next up, cast screws. This one I need 72. Third one, iron plates. 36. 2 power shards for that one. And last but not least, the iron pipes. This one we're gonna make 60 a minute. And there we go. Now with the recipe set, I can go ahead and just place these. And for most of these, should be Mark 1. Now I think the only one is this one. Yeah, that one's 240. So this one's Mark 3. But I believe all the other ones, 54, 18, 24. All the other amounts are nice and small, so Mark 1. Before we get too far ahead, let's go back downstairs and do some load balancing. So the first one we're going to do is for the iron rods. Iron rods need 24. Cast screws need 18. And those two combined equal the 42. And that's why I'm using 8 smelters. I could have actually used less and overclocked them more, but using 8 came out with a slightly more convenient number to work with. So the reason I wanted to keep these as neat as possible down here, it's because all of these are going to be offset to this side. So things will get a little bit interesting. But if the very first 2 can be dealt with by 1 smelter, I might as well make that the very end one. Alright, so the unfortunate thing is, let's see, the common denominator here would be 6, right? And 42 divided by 6, unfortunately, is we're going to be doing a 7-way split. And really the worst part is because I nudged the smelters, now I get to nudge all these things. Alright, so for this first one, it's going to be pretty easy. We're just going to place a merger there. So whenever we do one of these weird splits, we're going to have to loop one of them back. And then I'm just going to give myself the 1 meter space, get it lined up. So that'll split it in half. This will split it in quarters. And now I'm kind of running out of space. And if I look, these floor holes are lined up right here. So I'm just going to leave these basically touching. I could have moved those farther back, but I've just been placing all of them in that same spot. So this one will just be a little bit tight. We'll just make sure we put the belts in there now. We can connect all of these with Mark 1 belts. The belt isn't full enough that we'll need a higher one. So first things first, we'll loop one of the 8s all the way back. So now we have our 7. And the way the two numbers break down is one is 4/7, the other one is 3/7. So our 4/7 is just right here. And I'm just going to place it like that. And because I've already forgotten which one is which, let's see. Okay, the rods are the 24. The screws are the 18. Okay. So this one can go like this. There's my 24 screws. For the 18, I just need both of these. So what I can do is just have this come out by one. Connect those. And now, unfortunately, these are kind of in the same line. But we'll just go down one level, and this is the only space we'll have to do this. There we go. So there's my 24 and 18. The other two constructors are going to use the rest of this. For the other 7, the way they break down is the iron plates are going to get 1 and 2/7, and then the steel pipes get 5 and the remaining 5/7. And this is where things get a little bit tight and a little bit interesting, so I'll just apologize for it now. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and line up this merger with that other one, and I'm actually going to skip this one. The iron plates are going to get 1 and 2/7. So I'm going to do the 5-way split on this one. So that way the 2/7 can go here. And then the 5/7 will get grouped up with the rest of these. While I'm at it, let's go ahead and group up the other 5. And I've already forgotten I need to do my half nudge on a bunch of these. Oh, each one's putting out 42. So the first belt can be a Mark 1. And then the second one on either side needs to be Mark 2. Alright, so there's my 5. Now we just need to do this weird split. So now I know what I can work with. This is going to come out of there. Alright, so we're basically just going to do another 8-way split. It's just not going to be in a straight line this time. So here is the first one. So this is going to split it in half. And now we need 2 more splitters. So I'm going to put one here. And then the last one is going to go right here. So we are making a weird little zigzag shape here. Almost forgot I needed to replace that very first one because it's not lined up. There we go. Okay, and let's get that connected. Alright, so the 42 into the merger. This one gets split in half, so half of it's going to go here. So there's a half, there's a quarter. So this is the 4/7, and I'm just going to plug that directly into this merger. Which means I probably need to upgrade that belt right there. There's the 4/7. And out of this one, I have 2, which is what I need to group up with this machine right here. So for that, let's go ahead and just place a merger over here. And because I want it to be in line with this stuff right here, let's go ahead and place it right next to the splitter. And now this is unfortunately just where it's not going to look pretty. Well, besides that one little section, it's not too bad. It just kind of needs to snake around here. And here's what I need for the iron plates, which happens to be the next one. So let's just bring the lift all the way down, and we can plug that right in. Iron plates are done. So with this one, let's go ahead and grab a merger, and we'll just place it in line with these two. Mark 3 into there, and Mark 1 into here. And out of here is my 240. And with this one, just so we don't have to get really weird pipes, I'm just going to do this. Just one extra lift. This one there, one there. And there we go. So there's my 240. But I need to remember to cycle this last one into that very first merger. And unfortunately, if I were to just plug it in like normal, it's going to clip into the belt. And it just, even though it's only a tiny bit, just don't like it. So instead, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 meters, and then bring this up by 1. Now I should be able to get this to work. So if you go from the splitter to here, it's still going to be at its normal distance, right? So you have to do it from the conveyor lift. Make sure it's facing the right way. There we go. Now it's not clipping in there anymore. And that needs to plug into this merger. And that port is kind of occupied. And so I think I'm going to run into the same thing on this side. And for this one, I like the stackable just because I think it's easier to delete afterwards. But because I want this to face this way, I'm going to nudge it in a meter. And we should be able to do the same thing where we snap it to the conveyor lift, spin this around, and now we can avoid the clipping. Just sometimes it can be kind of a pain deleting that afterwards. So straight mode, there we go, we've got our nice 90-degree angles. 2 7-way splits, and the hard part of the factory is all done. It's easy mode from here. Now let me go ahead and add the final floor, and we can put in the last machines. The 4th floor, all assemblers up here. And thankfully, I only need 3. So we're going to get this right here in the middle. Yeah, it looks good. And then we'll go ahead and space these ones out. Now, normally, I would do it like this. Now, this time, I'm going to nudge them over just a little bit. And the reason is those constructors are in the middle 4 foundations, right? That means that those inputs are probably going to come up right through here. And then I'll just have the other one come up on the side there. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side too. Alright, let's start some recipes. So left to right, the very first one is going to be the Encased Industrial Beams. Wait, hold on. I don't want to use the default recipe. Look at all those recipes. That's the one I'm looking for. Encased Industrial Pipe. There we go. I will need 3 power shards. I can make 10 a minute. So all 60 steel pipes are going to come here, and then the concrete from that bottom floor, or second floor, I guess. Next up is the reinforced iron plate, and for this one, I'm just using the default recipe. Need 1 power shard because this one's going to be making 6. There's the 36 iron plates and the 72 screws. And then the last one will be making the modular frames. And this one will be overclocked to 200%. I'll be making 4 a minute. So this is going to take the reinforced iron plates from this assembler, and then the iron rods from the floor below. So yeah, we don't need that middle one, because this one is going to go ahead and come right around here. Perfect, so now we can kind of just pair things up. So iron rods, that's a Mark 1 belt. And then I just need to plug that up. But I'm pretty sure the rods are the ones that are on the very end. So I know screws is next. So that's going to be Mark 2 there. And then just Mark 1 there. And both of those can be Mark 1. And with them spaced out like this, now it's really easy, because now they're just far enough that I can get nice 90-degree angles right into there. Except for these middle 2. These middle 2 are just not in a good spot. But if I place it this way, then it's going to have a weird bend. This way, I can't really do the 90-degree angle. So with these ones, I am just going to place the lift facing that direction. And then I'm going to go ahead and line up the second one here. Not my favorite solution, but it does work. And it's fairly clean looking. And I just kind of prefer that look than having the belt have to do that weird turn. Definitely just a personal preference. There we go, and then I just need the concrete from the floor below, so that'll be really easy to grab. Just need to run that all the way down. Alright, besides the decorating and making sure this bottom floor actually has, walls so it's supported, I'm just going to add the miner to the limestone, and then it's just going to have a really short bus over to here. And then same thing with the iron. Just a little bit longer of a bus, but we'll just run it this way and then into the factory there. Let me see what kind of decorations I can come up with for this one, and then we'll go on a quick little tour. Welcome to the new modular frame and encased industrial beam tower. Start off with the farthest sections and work our way in. Here's the iron node. So with all the rest of them when I use this blueprint, the miner itself is not on the world grid. It's at the right height, thankfully, and the right alignment, at least to start. But then there can be a challenge getting things to merge back onto the world grid. So normally I would just do a 90-degree angle, but I wanted to try to switch things up a little bit and try to take advantage of the new curve mode. I played around with this for entirely too long, let me tell you. I tried to do just a solid curve all the way through in a couple different ways, and then I tried doing just kind of a straighter section in the middle at different lengths to try to find, what would match the curve modes for the belt. And then I just kind of had to play around with where the belts were actually connecting and how long the straight sections, right there and there and there were, just to get the curve to kind of look smoother. Because if you try to do just a curve almost the whole way, it was just a really exaggerated curve, and making the foundations fit underneath was a challenge. But now, with all the different nudging options we have in 1.1, making curves is so much easier than it used to be. Just in case you're not familiar, let me show you how. Let's go ahead and make these fix it, and it's just a little bit easier, I think, to see the markings. Alright, so to make a turn, first you have to decide, which direction are you going? If I want to go to the right, I'm going to take my foundation here, and I'm going to hold control, and I'm going to get it lined up on the left corner. Now, if I want it to curve to the left, I'm just going to do the opposite, okay? So you get it right at the corner, and if I hold it in place, it's right on the halfway mark on both of these sides. Now what you want to do is unlock it, and then scroll your mouse wheel twice. So if I'm going to the left, I am going to scroll it this direction. And now I'm going to press H to lock it in place. I am now going to nudge it to the left 4 meters, and then forwards 4 meters. And then down with the page down. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now these two sides of the foundation are lined up just perfectly. Obviously you're going to have the overlap on this side. But now I can go ahead and place it. And then if I hold control, it's going to remember that I scrolled it 2 clicks, so I don't even have to do that. I just need to do the nudge forward, nudge to the side, and then nudge down. Now if you want a much more subtle turn, you can do just 1 click. So this would be completely even if you wanted to go straight. This is just 1 click. It's a little bit hard to tell. It's probably easiest to see just how much they overlap here on the bottom. So this will give you a really shallow turn. It'll only be a 5-degree turn. Whereas this right here would be 10 degrees. So I did a 10-degree turn here and a 10-degree turn there. And then I had tried to make the turn work, but the spacing just wasn't quite right. But the curve didn't quite work, so I just used the beam trick to get this section right here. So that's how I merged this one, which is off the world grid, back onto the world grid. And with this belt bus, I decided to just keep it plain. I've tried a lot of different things between putting like the railing on there, or even just like the 1-meter walls and stuff like that. Everything tends to fit right directly on the edge of the foundation, and then they hang over. So I feel like if you do any of these, then it looks a little bit weird. The railing's not so bad. The walls and the barriers to me just look funny unless you put another wall along all those foundations. So I decided to keep it plain and see how I like it. So we've just got our cool new concrete beams here, which I really like. I think they look really good. They clip into each other really nicely as well. The only thing, I wish we could paint them, because currently they stay concrete no matter what. But I have a feeling we'll get that eventually. Limestone was really easy because it's so short. I just had to kind of get up and over a couple of these. There's just a number of rocks, and so to keep things kind of as minimal as possible, instead of having this huge block out here, I just added 2 lifts. On to the tower. Alright, so for the outsides, I decided to use the low barriers, and then like I said, they overhang. So with these, I just nudged them in by a 1/2 meter. And if you nudge both of them in by 1/2 meter, then the corner barriers fit like directly on the corner. And so it ended up working out really well, I thought. And because I normally have my little balconies here, and I usually just make it solid. But with this one, I decided to indent it, and then I'm just using a whole bunch of portrait signs. And these right here are the new things for the trains. I've already forgotten what they're buffer stop. There we go. So these are really cool, and because you've got all sorts of fun clipping you can do in the game now, you can kind of merge them into stuff like that, and so that's kind of what I did here. half of it is inside the wall. So I thought it was a fun decorational piece that I could plop on top of these things. Let's head on in. So with the inside, I decided to just do a stripe of the fix-it wall, and it definitely breaks it up. So if you just do tons of walls of this for an entire floor, it can definitely look just very gray and black. A little stripe of copper never hurt anybody. This floor was actually just huge, and it was just too much space. And so that's why I ended up closing this off. And there's really just one logistics belt. The limestone runs back here and then goes up. But by cutting down the space, it doesn't feel just so empty. And same thing with this side. It's just covering up where the iron is coming in and going up to the first floor. So we've got our elevator. This is what I decided to do with the sink. I decided to sink it down. I'm sorry, that was so bad. But by doing that, the antenna didn't stick above this floor, which was kind of what I was going for. I didn't want to have to make that floor any taller, and it felt weird having that antenna just kind of stick up. So just dropped it down a little bit lower. And then if you come in here, thank you to the comment on my last video. I definitely made things more complicated for a lot of my smart splitters and sushi belts. I went ahead and fixed the one for my rotors and motors factory because that one is set up almost exactly the same way as this one. The two items are going to be on one belt, and then with the smart splitter, one of them goes here, the other one goes here, and then the last one is set for overflow. And I could go back to my iron tower and cut out probably 7 smart splitters if I wanted to. I don't really mind having that extra buffer between the first smart splitter and then the second one. And I got it all working now, so I just don't feel like messing with it. But it's definitely something to keep in mind in the future. Didn't need to use quite as many. For both of these items, I can definitely see myself having 3-dimensional depots on top for each one. Just because you don't necessarily use a lot, but when you do use them, you usually use a lot of them. Modular frames are going to be used quite a bit when I'm making trains, although like I said, you're not going to use too many doing that. It's more of when you need to place a whole bunch of foundries. Using 10 at a time, you can pretty quickly deplete what you have in your dimensional depot, so it's just nice to have some extra ones. Oh yeah, manufacturers use 20 apiece. Yeah, those definitely add up too. But because I don't have a ton of Mercer spheres yet, I'm just going to leave 1 on each one. So for right now, what I'm going to do is switch both of these to smart splitters. And that way, the center one will get prioritized, which is the one that has the dimensional depot on top. And then once that one gets full, it will fill up the other 2. And then when I come back later on, when I have more Mercer spheres, if I only add 1 more to each one of these, then I could change just 1 of these to any. Or if I end up adding the dimensional depots to all of them, I can just switch these back to regular splitters later. As far as the floors go, I really didn't change too much. The only thing I really added were some H-beams. I really like these new beams. So we have new H-beams, we also have new shelf beams, which are real similar to the H-beams, but you've just got those extra little pieces in there. So cool new look. The rounded concrete beam that I showed below, and then the 2 braided cables. And even though they're called cables, they're beams. So the braided cable is the skinnier of the 2. And then when you get the braided cable cluster, it's quite a bit thicker. I can't wait to see the cool suspension bridges people build. And then with these, I just wanted to add some lights, but not too much, so they're just the 1 meter signs. May not have a lot of color, very gray, but I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. Let's turn it on. Since the iron has the farthest to go, we'll go ahead and plug this one in first. Let's get the stopwatch going. There they are. First modular frames. The Encased Industrial Beams got up to speed real quick. And once it got started, looks like it's just staying on. So that's 10 encased industrial beams and 4 modular frames per minute. Not a ton, but it should be enough. Now I can clean up even more of that starting area. But before I do that, I think it's going to be time I do another exploration trip. There are still quite a few recipes available in this phase, and I don't have them. And if we take a look at the map, I've done some decent amount of exploring. There's still some more up here that I need to go grab. But there is a huge chunk of the map that I have yet to explore. I am probably going to avoid the very center for right now. Half of those hard drives I probably don't have the parts to unlock, so it's easier just to leave those till later. For this trip, I think I'm going to head down this way and then make my way into the green forest, maybe even down to the crater fields, and then maybe cut back up this way. That's my plan right now, but I'll probably use the object scanner a little bit more than I have in the past, and well, then you just kind of go from one shiny thing to one shiny thing, and who knows where I'll end up. So I'm going to go run around for a couple hours and do some exploring, and then I'll show you what I found. I take it back. There's one or two quick things I wanted to take care of before I go on my exploration trip. I'm back out here by my plastic and rubber setup, and it's taking me so long to do everything, they are completely full. And that's okay. I'm hoping that sooner rather than later, I'm going to be replacing this whole setup. But I threw on some dimensional depots in case I do need any of it in the meantime. But the reason I came over here was to add another temporary setup. So here's another impure oil node, 3 refineries, and then some new machines. So let me go through it real quick. Obviously, the whole setup is pretty simple. So first up, we have our oil extractor, which turns out actually needs 2 power shards. I need 120 crude oil. That is getting split in between the 2 refineries. The first one here is going to be taking half the crude oil and turning it into fuel with the byproduct of the polymer resin. The second refinery is taking the other half of the crude oil and turning that into 40 plastic. So this one needed to be overclocked to 200%. And then I've got the 20 heavy oil residue to deal with. For that, it's going into the third refinery, being turned into 60 petroleum coke. Let's pop down here. And for the last machines, we've got the constructor. This one's going to take the 40 plastic and turn it into 80 empty canisters. And then it goes into a splitter. And so half of it will come here. So I've got 40 empty canisters, and all 40 of the fuel that I'm making in that first refinery is going to be packaged. Now we can see where everything is going. So the packaged fuel is going to come out of here and go into that container. Half of the canisters are going to get split on that splitter right there, and then they are also going to get their own storage container. The main reason for this is for some unlocks, you need some packaged fuel from one of the MAM unlocks. And then you need a decent amount of empty canisters when you decide to use the diluted package fuel setup. And that is going to be in the next video. So I want to stock up on those empty canisters. The petroleum coke is just exiting this refinery here, coming along, and then joining up with the polymer resin. Those are going to come along here, and then end up getting sunk. When I'm not overclocking and slooping a manufacturer, we're looking real good on power still. But now that I'm in this phase with refineries and manufacturers, this can disappear just so quickly. But for this, we've got plenty. So let's start it up. And just like that, I've got 40 packaged fuel and 40 empty canisters headed to storage. The only downside really to the liquid biofuel is that it's not completely automated like you can with the regular fuel, but it is so much better. So I'm actually not going to take any of this fuel with me on my exploration trip. I'm just going to rely on the packaged liquid biofuel because I've got a lot. Now I can go exploring for an hour or two, and when I come back, I'll have a real nice stockpile of these. I'm in the middle of my exploration trip, and I'm out here in the grassy fields. Way down here at the bottom. Thankfully, I finally picked up enough crystal oscillators. I just really didn't want to craft 100 of them. Although I do have the manufacturer, so I probably should have before I left. Hey, hindsight's 2020. I've picked up enough from crash sites. I can finally unlock the radio signal scanning. So just being able to get kind of close and then being able to use this to be able to find it, because some of them are a little bit more hidden. This one's thankfully pretty out in the open. But I like it. I'm glad I finally have it unlocked. Well, I've been running around some more, and my hard drive library is looking pretty full. And actually, the very last one only has one option. So technically, if I go over to hard drives, it's going to tell me unable to scan hard drives. But I think this is a good time to just kind of go through the list, and I'm just going to pick the ones that I know for sure I'm going to be using. Like, for example, wet concrete. I can go ahead and just select that one now. Steel frame, pretty sure I'll use it. Heavy oil residue is a must. Steamed copper sheet is really nice. Add some water and you double the efficiency compared to the normal recipe. I need the recycled rubber and the plastic. So let's go ahead and select both. And the diluted packaged fuel. Definitely going to be using this one. And now I can go back to scanning my hard drives. I like to do it this way because then once I get to the next phase, I'm going to have everything already researched that's up to that phase. So once I can scan new hard drives again, they're pretty much guaranteed to be for any of the new parts that I'm unlocking. Back at the hub. I survived. Now that I'm using Sky UI to pause the day, I'm pretty sure it messes with this sign here, but it's not at 0. So let me give you another quick little before and after shot. I went down into the grassy fields, tried to clear out a lot of that, and then over to the blue crater. By the time I made it to the Titan Forest, I was already running a little low on ammo, and I forgot just how many of the more dangerous mobs are out there. So I just ran through it pretty quickly. But here's the haul. So I'm up to 16 hard drives, pretty decent amount of slugs, and a decent amount of remains. For right now, I'm actually just going to store the remains. Most likely, I'm going to turn them into DNA capsules, but I also just don't feel like waiting around for all of that. I am going to do the slugs, however. Can you really have enough power shards? The power shards are done crafting, and I am back out in the desert. To wrap up this video, I'm going to finally replace my concrete setup. And so what I was looking for was a limestone node, preferably a pure one, that was pretty close to water. And, well, this is real close to water. And the reason I want a pure node, I so rarely do this, but I'm actually planning on having this be expandable. More than once even. So right now I'm going to use 300 limestone because the best I have is a 480 belt. The most I can get out of a Mark II miner on here is 600. Once I get Mark V belts, then I can double the production. And then once I unlock the Mark III miners and the Mark VI belts, I can come back and then double it one more time. And now I have some foundations placed. So when you're designing a factory to be expandable, there's a number of different ways you can do this. And the way I'm doing it probably isn't the best. I'm going to lead with that. When I've got all the best miners and belts, I'm going to have 4 refineries in here. And so I think most people would probably just build all 4 now, underclock them, and then when you come back, you upgrade the belts, you just change the clock speed. That does make a lot of sense. And I think that is probably the right play for the large majority of factories. As you can tell, that's not what I'm going to do. I am only going to place 1 for today. I am going to be using the wet concrete, and it is going to be completely overclocked. So it will intake 300 limestone, 250 water, and I'm going to get 200 concrete. The brown goes with limestone. I am sure some of you, rightly so, are wondering why in the world would you do it this way? So let me finish the build and maybe it'll make more sense, but you'll have to trust the process for a second because it's going to look real weird. Alright, so we've got a small storage container. And yeah, I think I only need 1 foundation. We'll give it plenty of space. I like watching the stuff move around. So 1 storage container is going to go there. 1 storage container is going to go there. Then I'm going to switch it to dimensional depots. And now I'm going to go back to the storage containers and back to my dimensional depots. I promise there is some thought behind this. In hindsight, I should have built this before I went exploring because it would have made way more sense to let it build up for the extra hour or 2. But here's my thinking. I'm not always using concrete, and there will be long periods of time where I'm not using any concrete. I'm doing something else. And so most likely, this will eventually fill up. Let's just assume I dilly-dally and these all end up filling up. One of these has 24 slots. At 500 concrete per stack, each one of these is going to hold 12,000 concrete. Now, even when this is completely upgraded, I'll only be able to pull out 240 a minute. And so even if this was not refilling at all, it would take me 50 minutes to completely drain all of these containers. And that means I would have to be just consistently using that much concrete. I mean, I've definitely used that much concrete, but each one of these are actually going to be refilling at a rate of 50. So really the net would only be 190. And so it would take me over an hour to completely drain all these once they completely fill up. And it certainly may happen, but I think that's a pretty good start. Right now I have 3 stacks, but it'll max out at 5. So the most I'll be able to have in here is 2,500. But since each dimensional depot has its own upload speed, I'm just quadrupling whatever rate that I have unlocked, which I think right now is 60. Yeah, 60 per minute. So everything else is going to upload at 60, but concrete will upload at 240 right now. Alright, so for the load balancing, it's pretty easy. We're just going to put a splitter here, and then I'm just going to place one there and nudge it up. And since each one of these is only going to be getting 50, I only need Mark 1 builds. And then from here, we'll use a smart splitter. 200 into here, 100 into here, and then 100 into there. And then with this smart splitter, I'm going to set left and center to be any. And then once those fill up, which should pretty much happen at the exact same time, then it's going to go into the overflow. So if you wanted to save the power shards, you could definitely do more refineries and then just merge them together. And then when you change the belts, change the clock speed. I just thought it'd be easier just to duplicate this each time I want to double it. And the rest of this is going to be pretty easy. I'm just going to put a floor hole here. And then the pipe can just run right down all the way to the water. I need 250 water with some power shards. Means I only need 1 water extractor. Quick and easy factory. Hopefully this will last me a while. Here is the final product. The limestone just heads right into the factory. This is going to connect to that tower right there. Of course, there's an elevator. I mean, in these spots, it just makes a lot of sense. It's just a great way to be able to get all the way down to the water extractor and to be able to carry power down there. I think they're so great. So here's the 1 water extractor that I need for this one, but I've got space to add the other ones. The glare on the windows makes it harder to see the pipe unless you're up closer, but I did kind of like the look. So the pipes are just going to head up there and go into the factory. There's about 1 foundation's worth of clearance between the refinery and the roof, but I added the vents on there, so if the smoke does come out, I'm hoping it lines up right. And because the whole roof didn't need to be that tall, I decided to just slope it down, and then why not just slope it down again? Let's head on inside. So when we get inside, I just added this stuff to take up some space. So got a crafting bench and a workshop and some shelving units. And then on this side, we've got a MAM and the light control panel. So the fact that I ran out of space right there and there was a bunch of rocks ended up working out really well. I really like the way that this ended up turning out because now you've got a good amount of space to be able to look down at everything. I can still access the refinery. Can make it back here. We've got the elevator and the sink. So for the extra, the overflow just comes out here. I just went with a short lift because then this right here is at the 2-meter height. So it'll be able to avoid the pipes, which are at the bottom. And so this basically just fits right in between the pipe and that belt. So it works out pretty great. So the overflow will just come up here and head onto the sink. So I did pre-fill the pipes, and the way I did it this time, instead of having to mess with all the different power, I went ahead and just unlocked the alien power augmenter. After all the exploring, I have a good amount of the summer sloops, and so placing one of these down just makes things just so easy when you need just 500 or less power. Normally, the elevator is how this is all going to get its power, so I just unconnected that, and then connected this to this. And once there's a connection, then you can see you have 550. The water extractor is already full, so it's not running. This blueprint has been super helpful. My 120 mobile generators, but there are a couple hard drives that need more than this, and it's kind of annoying to have to place multiple ones. whereas an alien augmenter will handle any of them. So being able to just plop one of these down and get completely free power is just so handy. Let me make sure I connect this up again. Let me head on back, and then we'll get this thing started. Easiest way to do it is from up on the roof, actually. So we're going to connect from here all the way to there. And here we go. And just like that, it's at 100%. So because it's so close to the limestone node, and with the pipes pre-filled with the water, it starts pretty much instantly, so I don't even think this one took a minute, so I probably didn't add the stopwatch to this one. But here is my factory that is basically going to supply most of my dimensional depots with concrete for the rest of the playthrough. I think I can get away with just one node. That's pretty close. Maybe I can move it over just a little bit, but I think it's pretty good. I really like the vents. I'm so glad that they're in the game now. And the fans. I actually really like the fans. Even though it wasn't the most factories I've built in an episode, I feel pretty good about this one. We've got the Encased Industrial Beams, Modular Frames, and now concrete, all being automated and sent to my dimensional depots. And a couple more temporary setups that I can't wait to be able to delete and put permanent ones in their place. And I could probably add one or two more factories before I really needed to worry about power. But it is just so much easier being able to take care of that ahead of time. So that's what I'll be doing in the next video. I'll be replacing my coal power plants. Look forward to that, and thanks for watching.